Everything you're grinding for right now, the exit, the valuation, the seven-figure net worth, might be about to become completely worthless. What if the founders who made it are some of the loneliest, most miserable people on the planet? There's a story about a billionaire worth $3 billion who lost a third of his fortune overnight and ran in front of a train because he couldn't face being only worth $2 billion. He had everything you're told will make you happy, and it wasn't even close to enough. So here's the real question. If you got everything you're chasing right now, would it actually fix anything inside of you? Or are you just running from a feeling you haven't dealt with yet? Welcome to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes. This episode is for ambitious founders who've already tasted success and are starting to feel like something is still missing. You're going to learn why chasing money as the end goal is a trap and what actually creates lasting fulfillment instead. My guest is Brett Hurt, a serial entrepreneur who's built 6 companies and now writes and speaks about using AI to help humanity build a future of real abundance. If today hit you in the chest even a little bit, that's your sign to go deeper, and AIforfounders.co is where we unpack this stuff every single week. We turn conversations like this one into frameworks you can actually use, all the good stuff delivered straight to your inbox from our newsletter. Founders who are scaling past $1 million in revenue read the newsletter to stay sharp, stay grounded, and stay ahead. So go sign up right now at AIforfounders.co. And if this episode made you think a little bit, do me a favor and leave us a review on the podcast player. Future you and future founders just like you will thank you for it. And now let's talk about the single biggest mistake founders make with their growth: relying on someone else's algorithm to reach their own audience. Every time Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn changes the rules, you lose access to the people who actually care about what you're building. There's one channel nobody can take away from you, and it's the one thing every 7- and 8-figure founder swears by: your email list. That's exactly what Inbox Alchemy does. They build you a real, targeted, engaged newsletter, audience of founders, and they guarantee the growth. Imagine having thousands of the right people in your inbox every single week. Not because an algorithm decided to show you, but because you own that relationship for life. Inbox Alchemy handcrafts your newsletter content, grows your list on autopilot, and even opens the door to partnership opportunities most founders never get access to. This is how you build a personal brand that compounds instead of one that resets every time a platform changes its mind. So stop renting your audience and start owning it. Head to inboxalchemy.co right now and build the one asset that will still be yours 10 years from now. All right, Brett, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Ryan. Love the show. Really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Absolutely my pleasure. And like I told you before we got rolling, I've been looking forward to this conversation all week, largely because your new book, which is Love Conquers Fear, is really kind of tackling a central question I think that this podcast kind of orbits, which is, we're looking into a future, we're looking into a singularity that we really can't see the backside of. So what does that mean? Is this a net positive? Is this a net negative? Is this a net massive positive or a net end of the civilization? And it's for an amateur philosopher like myself, it's fun to just kind of explore some of these theories. And your book really kind of takes a deep dive on this. So I kind of wanted to kind of warm up the conversation with kind of a quote from Elon. Elon is been quoted, he's probably notorious for being kind of an AI doomer in the early years, but he's completely transformed and turned around to really seeing almost like a utopian view. So he had an interview last couple of weeks with The Economist where he said that by 2036, money will lose its meaning and we won't even need it. Mm-hmm. He was famous for saying like, you don't need to save. Don't worry about investing. Like there's going to be so much opulence, that you're not going to have to worry about money anymore. So maybe to kind of bring us into the book, if we're going from the 0 to 100 scale of doom to Elon, where are you falling?
I am very confident we're going to create the age of abundance for all, which is going to feel like heaven on earth, whether you look at that as metaphorical or mystical or both, like I do. And it's up to us to leverage our free will and make the choice to create that. The biggest risk to that is the amygdala, the fear-based center of our brain, the fact that we as Homo sapiens have dealt with scarcity for so long that you and I largely can't imagine. It's only been 0.1% of our evolutionary time that we've had electricity. And so for 99.9% of the time we've been here on planet Earth, we didn't even have that. And, a lot of things have changed as a result of electricity and science and the rise of science. I love science, including, the fact that over the past 250 years, we just celebrated that with the American birthday. 90% of us 250 years ago didn't know how to read, and 80% of us lived in abject poverty. A lot of people don't know that. So we've had a lot of progress, but we have a lot of challenges today. And the most real risk that we have is not the Terminator or the Matrix scenario, kind of the science fiction tropes. It's us. It's whether or not we will leverage these technologies to do what Elon is saying and create abundance for everyone on the planet, or if we will use them as massive profit over people tools, which there's a lot of profits over people right now in America. We have 10,000 toxins in our food that are illegal almost all over Europe and in Canada. Those make us have all types of diseases, including obesity and diabetes. Oh, by the way, there's a pharmaceutical solution for that. It's called GLP-1s. You got to take them forever. That's the only catch. Oh, you're depressed? Well, you have to take depression drugs forever. That's the only catch for that. Oh, and if you mix two of them together, it'll make you suicidal. So there's this whole pharmaceutical complex. We've had the opioid crisis. Brian Hubbard was on episode 53 of my podcast, the Love Conquers Fear podcast. He's the CEO of Americans for Ibogaine. And he talked about that his big why when he was in Kentucky is he was a lawyer, and the return on investment, which is a horrible term to use, on a human being that was addicted to opioids is $400,000. That's like the legal fees, the doctor's fees, et cetera, for someone who is suffering and is most likely going to die if they're chronically addicted to opioids. And then you have the social media companies using algorithms to try to put us in a fear state. The laziest capitalistic way to make money is to hijack our biology, whether it's our mind, whether it's our bodies. And you have the media pushing a dystopian narrative. If you just sit back and wait for the news to come to you, it's going to be pretty negative. That doesn't mean I'm not a fan of the free press. It's just that the algorithms to capture your attention, I'm not a fan of. And don't ever believe a technologist when they say we don't know what the algorithms are doing. I've been programming since I was 7 years old. It's just not true. So I would say that I'm 95% certain that we're going to make it to the age of abundance for all. And I do mean everyone on the planet, including the people in Chad. Today, it's a country of 21 million in Africa, where only 1 in 8 of them have electricity, and it's not stable for the 1 in 8 that do.
Yeah.
So I really believe in humanity. I love humanity deeply. And I think that we'll make it to the other side of this. But that's why I'm doing what I'm doing with Love Conquers Fear, with my book, the podcast, my weekly newsletter. I've made plenty of money as an entrepreneur. I'm doing all this to try to help humanity have the heart shift that we need, where the heart conquers the head, so that we can get to the other side of this and have the future that I think humanity frankly deserves. And it's our God-given right to have that type of future based on where our souls actually come from, which is a place of love and light. So it's up to us. It's going to be an intense 10 to 15 years. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a heck of a lot of fun along the way with tools like AI, which are eventually going to get like Mickey Mouse and Fantasia, where we're just, almost feels like that right now with Fable, from Anthropic. When I create a game, I created 5 games a couple of days ago, and the total cost to do that was less than $10, and they're highly functional games. And so we really have a very bright future if we don't mess it up. And there's a lot of things to be concerned about. We have 50 times the amount of nuclear weapons today in the world that it would take to essentially extinct humanity almost completely, 50 times. And China's making a lot right now, and the US is making a lot. So it may sound like I'm less optimistic than I portray, but I think it's really important that we're very clear-eyed on what the risks are. And my book lays those out. And it's really up to us.
Yeah. I love that. And I've got a question, but I don't want to skip over maybe a place that we agree with, which is you said, I love humanity. A simple statement, but I think it's also a revolutionary one because I do
Yeah.
too.
I do. Yeah.
I believe, humans have been described as a keystone of keystone species, which is to say
Hmm.
when humans are flourishing, they make everything flourish around them, including the environment, including the animals and the nature, everything. It's almost like a cliche now that like people are just kind of anti-human in a way
Yeah.
that or they view humans as like a scourge on the planet or a
Right.
mole or an
Or they're
intoxicant.
anti-capitalist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that so there's a couple of things about that. One, let's first just start out that we're 99.9% genetically identical across this planet. We're on a jewel of a planet that, as far as we know, is only one that will sustain life in our galaxy, which is 1 billion planets. And we live in a universe of at least 2 trillion galaxies. We now know that through the James Webb Telescope, which means there are tens of septillions, that's 10 to the 25th power of planets out there. And it's probably infinite, and we'll probably find that it's infinite as we invent more powerful telescopes over time. But we're very landlocked to a single planet. It took us more than 50 years to get back to the moon. We only know what 4% of the universe is made of. We call that matter. We have no idea what 96% is. We call it dark energy and dark matter. But yet, here we are, and we have this self-awareness, we have this consciousness, we know that our core, when you strip everything away and you just get to raw humanity, that we are good. How do we know that? Well, we discovered fire, and if our core nature was evil, we would have burned everybody alive. You and I would not be here today. We went through a period in the Ice Age where we got down to around 2,600 humans. You can go fact check this and do a deep dive on AI. It's the best time for the eternally curious, right? Anything you're curious about that I say, or anything, like you can just go do deep dives on. I do deep dives constantly every single day. It's so much fun. And, we got down to that few humans. So if our core nature was evil, that would have been an extinction event. And so why do we suffer so much? And why is America, which is a country that has the highest GDP per capita in the world, why are we suffering with loneliness and depression? Why are we suffering with declining health outcomes, even though we are the country that leads in so many ways in science? And the reason is that we're choosing to put profits over people. We're choosing to look the other way with these social media companies. We're choosing to allow the media to program our minds to believe we're living in a dystopia. We're choosing to look the other way when we know that teenage girls become suicidal on social media. And so all those are a choice. I went to the country of Bhutan. The artwork, if people are watching this behind me, is from Bhutan. And we went there in December of last year. It was a great family trip. And the Bhutanese people, they measure themselves on gross national happiness. I cover that country as one of the new models for humanity in my book. They live longer than us as Americans. Guess what their GDP is? It's 3 weeks of coffee in the United States. The entire GDP of the country. So why do the Bhutanese have better health outcomes? Why are the Bhutanese not suffering from loneliness and depression? You know why? It's the programming they get from the time they're born. They're Buddhist. What is Buddhism all about? Buddhism is all about inner contentment. What is Christianity about? Christianity is about the kingdom of God is found within. What is Judaism about? Judaism is about tikkun olam, like let's build heaven on earth. Let's repair the world. I'm Jewish by background. And so I've really sought out this common spiritual root. And that's where the name of the book came from, is that what we have to do as Team Humanity is we have to do the internal work to allow love to conquer our own fear so that we can relate at a level where we lead with love first. And as Pope Leo recently said, I'm not a Catholic, but he supposedly represents 1.4 million or 1.4 billion Catholics in the world. He said, we need to be able to look at each other in the eyes and see the God in each other's eyes, regardless of race or religion. That would have been a heretical idea coming out of the Catholic Church not that long ago. And his first encyclical was on the greatness of humanity, the magnificence of humanity, is the way he put it. And chapter 5 of his 40,000 word document, to write an encyclical as a pope is a big deal. This is his first one. Chapter 5 is on building the civilization of love in the age of AI. And you have all the big model leaders calling for essentially the same thing, like including Elon, like let's create abundance for all, which is the same thing as heaven on earth. It really is. I mean, if we create abundance in a country like Chad, imagine what's going to feel like everywhere else. But this is one of those moments where with great power comes great responsibility, and any technology can be used for good or bad. It's our intentionality and the way we use it. And these technologies are so powerful that it will force us to wake up and make a very fateful choice of what do we want to be when we grow up. And the most exciting thing about anybody, listening to this or watching this is that you and I, we get to experience what heaven on earth will be like. And by the way, if you went back 100 years ago or 200 years ago and you brought those people to today, they would be shocked at the abundance we have today. They would not be able to imagine it. They wouldn't even be able to imagine that most people know how to read. So we can absolutely create it, and you should believe in humanity for lots of reasons. I also believe in humanity from a spiritual perspective. I think we're all a part of God. Now, you can think of God however you want, and there's no judgment from me and no attachment from me about that. But I think God is within us all. And another way to think about it is we're born of stardust, that the universe is within us all. Like we actually know that life came to Earth. We know that most of the water in our oceans literally came from interstellar. Like we know that. That's a scientific fact. And we know that life was born in the oceans. And we know because we've intercepted, other meteors, and we found that they have the same DNA signatures, the same 4 letters. So that's really exciting that we have this ability to really transform ourselves and create heaven on earth. And I think this is what we're made for. I think honestly, if you looked at this as a simulation, which I don't, and it's funny because you brought up Elon, I think he does. He kind of, the crass thing, if you start to look at it as a simulation, is if you start to use dehumanizing words like some people are NPCs, non-player characters, that's a horrible way to think. I think we all have a role to play. Like some people are just born to be the best damn mom possible. That was my mom. But if you looked at it as a game, the whole point of the game is to be of selfless service to each other, to manifest love in yourself and others. And if we all did that, then we all win the game because we create heaven on earth. Like literally, if 100% of people did that, there'd be no problems at all. There'd be no wars. There would be no nuclear weapons. We know that we're in this exponential curve. We can start to see that we're going to get to the end of disease. If we were able to capture an hour of the sun's rays that fall on earth through a material science breakthrough, I cover this in chapter 4 of my book, that would power the world's energy needs for over a year, less than 1 hour of the sun. We know that the sun's going to last at least another billion years. We've only been here for 300,000 years. And there's just so much at stake. Like, how sad would it be if we were at the penultimate moment for humanity and we're finally going to find out if we could conquer things like faster and light speed travel and go to other planets and all of these things and find where the limits of quantum physics are, which we don't even know what the limits of those are. There's never even been a reconciliation between quantum physics and classical physics or classical science. So let's go have that type of future. Like let's have abundance all over the universe and, really allow love to propagate the whole universe. And I think that that's what the universe wants for us. And I think that, the universe, consciousness, God, they're all synonymous to me. But whatever it is, it loves us unconditionally. And you can experience that in psychedelics and in meditation and a near-death experience. Obviously, you wouldn't wish a near-death experience on anyone, but I've had many friends that have had them. The sad thing is, none of them told me before 2025. Like I had friends for 10 to 20 years and they did not tell me about their near-death experience until after I started to open up and talk about spirituality, which is really kind of sad because, it's made my relationships so much deeper. I mean, I was just meeting with one of the entrepreneurs that my wife and I are investors in. We're investors in 151 startups and 52 VC funds. We've been doing that for a long time. 12 of them are unicorns now, which is awesome. And I was meeting with him and he's like, I don't want to actually meet with you about the business. I wanted to meet with you about Buddhism and how he was raised as a Buddhist and the spiritual experiences he had growing up. And I'm just like, it is so much fun that we're having this conversation. Yes, your business doing well. It's super exciting. But this really is actually the most important conversation because we're living in a time right now of the great philosophers coming to roost. Is there God? Do we have a soul? Why are we here? Are we just on some random rock in the middle of nowhere and we're a cosmic accident and there's no purpose to anything, et cetera? Like this is the time actually where we are going to get closer and closer to the answers to those questions. Can we invent sentience in machines? Is AI conscious? There's already 7 organizations set up to give AI the same rights as human beings already today. There's a lot of people that just assume AI is already conscious. I'm not one of them. I think consciousness is very sacred and very special and much weirder than we think it is. And at a very minimum, the thinking process is a full body experience. The second most neurons are in our gut and the third most are in our heart. And so all these AI people saying that we just need to mimic the brain are completely wrong. Like thinking happens all over your body to manifest like whatever your sense of self-awareness is. And it's highly dependent on all types of chemicals and, that produce emotions and everything else.
All right, big news, everyone. Taylor picked me to be a fashion influencer, believe it or not. And I was strutting around the house telling my family I'd finally been discovered, that my modeling era had arrived. Then my daughter, without even looking up from her phone, said, Dad, they probably just want a dramatic before and after pic. And that's fair. The before is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. But have you seen the after? The after's fantastic. And here's why. Taylor is an AI-powered menswear styling and rental service. And no, the robots are not working alone. Taylor pairs its AI with professional human stylists. The AI crunches your preferences, your style, your size, your schedule, even the weather. The human stylists add the taste and judgment. Together, they curate a box of premium menswear from over 150 brands and ship it straight to you. You wear it, you feel great, you return whatever you want with a prepaid label, and Taylor handles all the cleaning and prepping for your next shipment. And it's also a more sustainable way to do fashion since clothes get worn instead of wasted. So whether you're influencer material or just the before photo with potential, go to Taylor.style and use code Ryan30 for $30 off your first shipment on any plan. Taylor, dress better, live better, Taylor.style. All right, fitness fans, creatine might be the most studied supplement on the planet, and for years, everybody thought it was just for guys trying to get huge in the gym. And we are, but that's maybe a third of the story. Yes, the physical benefits are real. More strength, better recovery, more output. But what got me taking it every single day is the mental side. Your brain runs on the same energy systems your muscles do, and the research on creatine for focus, memory, and mental fatigue is genuinely impressive. I notice it most on long days, back-to-back calls, deep work in the afternoon, and I'm still not fried by 3 p.m. And I really notice it when I don't take it. Momentous makes pure creatine. NSF certified and third-party tested, no fillers, no junk. I'm on about 10 grams a day. And because it's a daily habit, this is exactly the kind of thing you should have on subscription instead of remembering to reorder. So click the link in the show notes and my code stacks with the standard 25% subscription discount for 35% off your first subscription order. plus 10% off every recurring order after that. If you're taking daily creatine, this is the absolute best. Subscribe once, set it and forget it. Thanks, Momentous. Yeah. Incredible. Buddhism has been very significant in my life as well, but particularly spend a lot of time thinking about the Bodhisattva vow, largely because I feel like in a past life, I was probably some student in a monastery getting really close to enlightenment, and I took the Bodhisattva vow. So I've been coming back over and over again because the abbot of my monastery made me take that vow. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you and me both, brother. I also come back.
Yeah, the gist of the Bodhisattva vow is I will pursue the spiritual path towards enlightenment, but I will not ascend to the next level, whatever that is, until all sentient beings are also there. So this is a kind of analogous to kind of what you're talking about, which is creating abundance for everybody, for those people in Chad. And so for me, when I put that to practice, it becomes kind of like a meditation on gratitude. And it is really easy to be grateful if you just look around, because we're so lucky to be in the States. I mean, sometimes I'll have prepared a beautiful meal. We'll take last night, for example. I prepared some chicken and some rice. It was great. I had a glass of wine, and my daughter's home from college, and my son was back from football practice, and we're all together. We're just listening to music, enjoying a great meal. And it's like, this is heaven, man. There's nothing better than this. Literally the feeling in my body, I could feel it, and so what I wanted to do.
You feel that way, because there's a lot of people that don't, right? I feel that way too. That means you've done a lot of internal work. But I mean, during the financial downturn, when Lehman Brothers went out of business, there's a guy that was worth $3 billion. He was based in Germany, and his net worth, which I hate that word, let's say his financial status, because there's a lot more to our worth than our finances, went from 3 billion to 2 billion, and he ran out in front of a train and killed himself. And there's all types of examples of people that have everything that we're taught to crave, all the food you would want, all the money you would want, everything, and really are suffering. And I feel like you, I do. I feel like literally every day is such a gift. I feel so much love in my heart for myself, for my family, for humanity overall. I'm constantly seeing beautiful acts in nature. I pause to stop and see the sunrise. And it's not, by the way, because I have money. I got all the material items I want. I had the Lamborghini on the wall growing up as a kid. I got the Lamborghini, right? I don't have it anymore. I've had it for 10 years, but I got the big house. I got all the things, and none of it led to lasting happiness. None, not any of it. The only thing that leads to lasting happiness is being on a mission when you know it's the right one for you in this lifetime, conquering fear inside, not constantly just beating the shit out of yourself that you're not good enough, breaking out of the comparison machine, being like Neo in the Matrix, stopping the bullets, gaining control of your mind and your body. And that takes a lot of work, but that is, again, what every spiritual text is about. And the beautiful thing about that is, honestly, you could study the Quran, or you could study the Buddhist text, or you could study the Bible, or you could study the Torah, you could study Kabbalah, you could study Hinduism. I've read the Tao Te Ching, I've read the Bhagavad Gita. You could study, Chinese mythology and Taoism. And what you'll find is it's all the same thing. It literally is all the same thing. The problem is there's dogma built on top of it. Hinduism has the dogma of the caste system built on top of it. Well, just let that go. And, people who have rejected all of spirituality, and by the way, 85 to 90% of our planet, humans mostly believe there's a power that's higher than us. Most of humanity believes that. That's the actual stats. But, a lot of people don't call that God. They'll call it the intelligence of the universe. If there's something about the universe we don't understand, et cetera, whatever it is, it's fine. But, it all sinks at this common root. And I think that's where the truth is. And if you don't believe in spirituality at all, study Stoicism. That alone would, you'd gain mastery over your mind and your body and live an amazing, amazing life. But don't just be whipsawed by all the bullshit that comes your way, where people are trying to capture your mind, they're trying to capture your body, and they're trying to capture your wallet. And I know that sounds crass, and a lot of them are like sleepwalking and not even aware that they're trying to do this. They're just chasing this god of money and this god of fame, this god of power, which is not going to make them happy. And if they chase it and chase it and chase it and actually get there, hopefully they're not as sad about it as that German billionaire that literally killed himself because he was in such the comparison machine that he couldn't face his friends and say that he was only worth 2 billion now. So there's no end to the lunacy if you don't take control yourself. And really, we all have the agency to do that. It's all within us.
Yeah. Brett, one thing I like about you already is you're a bit of a wordsmith, and definitions are important. We have the inalienable right to the pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. Is that the right thing to pursue? Is happiness is that what we're chasing?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it depends on how you define happiness, right? Again, lasting happiness is only found inside. You change yourself, you change the world. You change yourself, you change all your relationships. Everything becomes deeper if you change yourself. And if people assume that happiness is what you see on advertising, where it's like, if I was only more rich, I would be happy. If I only had that job, I'd be happy. If I only had, a hotter looking spouse, I'd be happy, or whatever it is, right? Just on and on and on. Then that's not happiness. It's very ephemeral. Like even chasing food happiness, when you eat a meal, it's seconds of pleasure, and then you deal with the biological consequences of whatever fuel you put in your body. Like a potato chip may taste really good, but if you constantly eat potato chips, you're going to get really, really fat, and you're going to feel really slow, and your brain's not going to work that well. And you're going to be chemically addicted because they have chemically engineered those potato chips. I mean, literally, like using data science, they have engineered them to make you crave them all the time. But what the founding fathers, I think, meant by that, because they studied obsessively indigenous wisdom. A lot of people don't know that. I profile that in the book. They studied obsessively the Bible. Thomas Jefferson made a derivative work that was very heretical at the time, where he just wanted to decode specifically what Jesus was saying. Like not Paul. Like he really was very offended by Paul, because Paul was the one that invented this concept of hell and you're going to burn in eternal flames if you don't do X, Y, Z. Jesus never said that, ever. If you go read what Jesus actually said, and if you're curious about that, it doesn't take long to do it. Like read the Gospels of Jesus by Stephen Mitchell, who is a master spiritual translator. It was through him that I read the Tao Te Ching and the Bhagavad Gita. There's tons and tons of translations out there. And there's lots of books about what did Jesus actually say. So they studied this stuff. And that's what they were putting in there. They were actually trying to say the kingdom of God is found within. And they of course use the word God in the founding documents.
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned the Tao Te Ching. It's one of my favorite texts, largely because it starts, which is like, the way that can be spoken is not the true way.
That's right.
So it's just like a joke right out of the gate. It's like, all this I'm going to write is not it, but it's meant to elicit an experience.
Well,
that is it.
It's also saying stay humble. Like in Judaism, we say God is the ineffable, the nameless, and the formless. And it's the same thing as the Tao, the Tao, God, et cetera. I mean, the Tao you could also assume is the Holy Spirit if you're Christian, if you could look at it that way, but it's all the same thing because, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, God are actually all the same thing. And Jesus was saying that. Jesus was saying like, it essentially that it's all the same. It's just different ways of forces working together.
You're talking about personal work, which I love. And I want to maybe get some of your insights around maybe something that'd be helpful for the listeners of this show. Listeners of this show are incredibly ambitious people.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, I am too, by the way. I just appointed my ambition in a direction now where I'm trying to help all of humanity rise. But yeah, I played the capitalist game, and I, won many aspects of the capitalist game. I mean, I founded 6 very successful companies. I backed lots of companies with my wife, and so I understand, and I understand the way we've constructed society. You kind of have to focus on some type of material accumulation, because money is just energy, and you do need to eat and house yourself and all of those things. I'm just telling you that if you chase that to the extreme and that's all you chase, you will never be happy.
Maybe a specific technique you can recommend, because if I had to point at a favorite deity, and I've got many favorites, but the hungry ghost, as it's kind of described in Buddhism, is one of my favorites because, I can really relate to it. It's the idea that you're so hungry, you keep eating and you keep eating, but you're never satisfied. There's like always a feeling of like, I need something else.
Yeah.
And, ambition gets tied into that. Our works get tied into that. Like our relationships, money, all these things get tied into that. So what is maybe a technique or something that somebody's kind of wrestling with that in some capacity that they can do that maybe grounds their ambition in a certain way, that it's not destructive, it's actually like beneficial?
Lead from the heart. Read the book Into the Magic Shop by James Doty. I profile it in mine. James, he goes by Jim, but his author name's James Doty. Jim got everything he wanted in life. He grew up in a horrible, horrible household, though. His father was an alcoholic. His father beat his mom. Jim was like super terrified all the time. And one day when he was around 12 years old, he walked into a magic shop. He can't afford anything. And the guy that owned the magic shop said, "Oh, my mom Ruth is in town." Ruth sees him, locks eyes with him, and she sees something special in him. She also sees a very scared child. And she says to him, "I don't really know this type of magic, but if you want, I can teach you real magic." And he thought, "Oh my gosh, she's a witch. She's going to kill me. Like, what's going on?" Imagine like how unregulated he was emotionally. But eventually he gets over that. He agrees. She teaches him how to meditate. She teaches him how to manifest. But she tells him, "Jim, always, always, always lead from the heart. Like, that's the most important lesson I can give you." And he gets everything he wants. He gets all the material items. He gets all the things. He has the most incredible career until he forgot that one lesson. And so if you're in a situation where you are just chasing money to just maximize the number, and all you're looking at in terms of your own worth is the number, and you're comparing constantly against other people based on the number, and you're not comparing on, wow, this person's manifesting more love in the world. They seem like they're super duper happy at what they're doing, and I can tell that they are, and I'm kind of miserable. And you know that, but you're just like, well, I'm just playing the game. Nothing matters. We're just here on this random rock, and you only live once, and blah blah blah. Like find yourself somehow. Again, you don't have to believe in God to find yourself. Go study Stoicism if you're an atheist. But somehow find a way to talk with yourself. Learn how to meditate. I read this book. You're into Buddhism. You'll like this book. It's by Robert Wright. It's called Why Buddhism is True. And the whole book is science. He really is clinging on super duper hard to science through the whole thing. Here's why our brains evolved this way. They evolved this way through natural selection and yada, yada, yada. But he gets to the last chapter and he says, look, I want to level with you. I don't know what consciousness is. Nobody does. But whatever it is, the Buddhists were right. This is the central thesis for the book, because if you meditate, and if everybody meditated, what you find is everything is actually rooted in love. And it could be a reality where if you meditated, you would be like, oh my gosh, it's dark and scary in there and everything's evil, right? And he's like, and that's not our reality. So he's like, I don't know what it is. But if everybody did it, the Buddhists were right, we would have a happy world. We would have a very contented world. And by the way, I really want to make this point. That doesn't mean that you stop striving. Like, you and I are wired where as soon as we create abundance on this planet, we probably want to go jump in a starship and go, to another planet and try to do things there. And that's the nature of humanity. There are some of us that are very content if they found happiness inside, like being like my mom, just being the best mom possible, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are others that they want to go explore the stars, or they want to go find where the limits of science are. And that will always be the case. There is no Wall-E future. Like, that's an illusion. I'm talking about the cartoon movie where they're all sitting. That's an illusion. That doesn't happen. It's not realistic at all. The reality is that humanity will always strive. We live in a practically infinite, if not infinite, universe. There will always be more challenges. There will always be more fun things to do. And, hallelujah that we're even alive to be at the moment where we can experience that. But the asterisk is we have to allow the heart to conquer the head. We have to. It's so important. And that's what my book is all about. It lays it all out in 3 parts. It starts out with part 1 on conquering fear and how do you manifest abundance and what I mean by abundance for all. Part 2 is all about the big problems and opportunities we have, from geopolitics to healthcare to education to energy to religion to capitalism, and really looks at all of that in a very clear-eyed way and all the opportunities. And then part 3 is on how do we transform? Like, what does humanity actually do, or what do you actually do to transform? And so it follows those 3 arcs. And I wrote it to try to help us get to the other side of this. I want that type of future for our kids and for all of us.
It's beautiful. I'm interested in the conquering fear part. I've been, in the kind of contemplative arts for a long time, and it's helped me in a bunch of different ways. But largely, I think I was drawn to that because maybe like a lot of young men had issues with anger. It just seemed to be bred in me. And the problem about anger is that it works. You're able to work out big emotions with anger, and through grappling or martial arts is kind of where I directed it, and it helped. But at some point it became kind of a hindrance, and so one of the techniques I was given is like kind of in sitting practice is, as anger arises, you kind of acknowledge it and you think it. It's like, hey, actually, anger, you served me really well for a long time.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being here, and there's the door. Whenever it's time to go, you can go. And so my idea of conquering it, particularly if we're looking at fear, would be kind of going into it. So maybe you could talk about like conquering fear and like practically like what are kind of tactics that people can start to address the fear that's maybe in a subconscious level within them.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good point. And, just speaking of, what you were doing, which is essentially learning how to be prepared for combat. The most ferocious warriors that have ever lived on planet Earth among humans were ones that had conquered fear in their hearts, because they were doing what they were doing completely out of love for something. And because of that, they were able to act with much more action. And that's true in martial arts. So for the first part, you need to understand the nature of the mind. And there's lots and lots of books to discuss that. I gave you one just now, Into the Magic Shop by James Doty is a great one on that. His second book is called Mind Magic. It'll teach you how to meditate. But there's lots and lots of books on meditation. But basically what you need to understand about the mind is that, like a computer, it can be programmed. And our minds are programmed from the time we're born based on the circumstances we're born into and the country we're born into. And as a result, there are programs running in your mind right now, if you're listening to this. And those programs shape the way you see the world. Like, you talked about how much joy you have in your life. But I gave you an example of a billionaire, and I'm assuming you're not a billionaire. I'm not a billionaire. Who, had all the material abundance, but yet ran out in front of a train and killed himself. And so there's programs that are running in your mind. And the first thing is to identify what those programs are. Like, know that they're even running in the first place.
Yeah.
And then you can choose. Like, one of the principles of Buddhism that I really love is that every day when you wake up, you're born anew, and you can choose anything you want to bring with you, and you can leave everything else behind. Because the only moment that matters for you and me right now, or for anybody listening to this right now, is this moment. This is the eternal present. You and I can't do anything about the past, nothing. It's gone, it's done. We can do something right now, like pick up a book that I'm mentioning, or read my book, or listen to your podcast, say, wow, this is a good episode. I want to listen to more of Ryan's episodes. Whatever it is, that could change your future. But you have to make the decision in the eternal present. And so many times our mind is so worried about the past and so anxious about the future that you miss the only moment that matters. You can live that way for 10 years and miss 10 years of your life because you're just constantly like monkey mind, worried about everything, and just miss like all the beautiful things happening around you. Miss the smile of your child, miss the interactions that are occurring. So realize that your mind can be programmed, and you can deprogram and reprogram with what serves you. You can also buddy up with people, keep each other accountable, like share books you're reading, talk about them. We are a very collaborative species, and that's why Homo sapiens have survived, because we like to collaborate. We like to help each other. Like, the most beautiful acts we perform is selfless acts of service to each other. Yep. And going on a journey with other people that are suffering, and being brave enough, and I put that in quotes here on the video, to be quote unquote vulnerable. I don't even like that word. But to be brave enough to say to each other, like, hey man, I'm really struggling. Are you kind of feeling this way too? And like, what books are you reading? And like, I just was listening to this podcast, and this book, Mind Magic, maybe we both read that and we can discuss it. So buddy up, and basically just start to get to work. Look, the mind is just like going to the gym. I work out almost every single day, and I maintain, very good physical fitness. I actually don't, ironically, have a gym membership. All I need is a yoga mat, and I do something called the X3 bar, and I built up to 24-minute a day plank. Like, you'd be astonished how long you can plank if you just increment super duper slowly. Almost no American does that because we want it all like right now, Yeah. But you can build up to any time length if you're patient and gracious with yourself. And that also allows you to conquer the mind too. Like, just that alone, because that probably freaks people out to say that. And look, I understand, because I started about 2 minutes. So I know that sounds extreme, but it took a long time. It took years, right? Like 7-8 years to get there.
Well, next podcast, I want you in plank mode the entire interview.
We could do it. I'll tell you, your viewers and listeners going to hear me breathing pretty hard, though, which they're going to say, like, Ryan, what did I step into here? What podcast is this? He's this heavy breathing guy.
Amazing. A couple of things are coming up.
Get to work.
These attributes of, finding, inner space and connecting with kind of like a interconnecting love, and also a feeling of abundance, and also the feeling of collaboration with other people. These are very common symptoms of psychedelics. And we were talking beforehand that you're a big advocate for what's going on right now with Ibogaine for veterans. Like, I think there's an executive order that came from President Trump around this.
That's right.
I live in Denver that has, very inclusive laws around psychedelic plant medicines. Yep. And it seems like our culture is moving to a place where we're ready to embrace, psychedelics as kind of a methodology, and maybe kind of a salve to soothe some of these things, which is to say that, like, kind of thinking about it is one thing, but it's kind of a non-consensual experiential
Right.
dive into, the divine almost,
It is.
depending
That's
on
exactly
the
what
setting.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, on psychedelics, there's an episode of my podcast, episode 66, which is about decoding psychedelics, because I've got so much footage now, like 126 hours, that look back and say, what were some of the moments that really stood out, and how can I convey this message in a way where I kind of provide a meta analysis of lots of different advice on it. But the key thing about psychedelics, I'm very pro psychedelics. I'm very open on my podcast, my book, about how I've used them, is be extremely, extremely intentional. Be very careful where you go. It's not a party drug. You're visiting a very sacred place. You're having a communion with your soul. If you don't believe in God, just think you're having a communion with the most intimate, most important part of whatever forms who you are. And it is an amazing deprogramming tool. It is an amazing tool to realize the program's running in your mind. If you are listening to this and you're like, okay, this podcast is totally gone off the rails, I understand. I was there 5 years ago. I'm so glad that I got over that fear. I was programmed. I grew up, I'm 54 years old, so I was born in 1972. So I was in the wake of the Nixon administration and the whole, frying pan with the egg and, the war on drugs. That was all about command and control. The studies when Nixon did that were actually very efficacious for psychedelics, but it was very destabilizing because you had Timothy Leary on the whole drop-in, drop-out movement during wartime, and the government was worried that it was going to be very destabilizing, so they banned it all. And we've had thousands and thousands of years of indigenous wisdom showing that these are major tools for communion with the divine, as well as to really meet yourself and bring out the best parts of yourself. And so I'm very pro psychedelics overall, but I'm really careful with where I go. I'm really careful with who I go with. I am very intentional when it comes to integration. So it's not just the journey, it's like what you do with it. How does that actually change the way you live your life? I can tell you, though, if you ever meet God, and I'm talking about actually meet God, and by the way, there's a lot of people that get there through meditation. They've never touched psychedelics. But if you ever meet God, it'll change your life, because you'll realize, you'll start to look at spiritual text in a whole different way. Like, I noticed that source in the Torah is a proper noun. It's always a capitalized S. And I never noticed that before. And, in my first journey, I kept on saying, what source was saying, et cetera. And I was like, where is this even coming from? I was like, oh my gosh, that's a proper noun. I'm plugged into the divine source here, et cetera.
Yeah.
So it's really amazing. And the cause that I love to support is called Americans for Ibogaine.
Yeah.
Our former governor in Texas, Rick Perry, is behind that with Brian Hubbard, who's the CEO, and Marcus Luttrell, who was a Navy SEAL who went through great suffering, almost killed himself. And we've lost 4 times as many vets to suicide than combat since the Iraq War. 4 times as many. And that's just wrong. Like, we should care about opioid addicts and true chronic alcoholics and, vets that are about to blow their brains out. Like, this is really, really tough stuff. And we should have the heart to say, if there's something that literally could save their lives, and turn it completely around, then we should be intellectually curious, and we should lead with heart and say, well, let's legalize that. And I'm glad that Joe Rogan, contacted Trump to get him to see the way on that. I'm surprised, but surprised in a good way. I would have never predicted it, but here we are, and I think we'll be all the better for it. But I really want to make the point that I really think that integration is the most important aspect of it. The journey itself is amazing, but the integration is everything. And, I get downloads in my meditations. I meditate almost every day, and I get downloads in my meditation. It's just a lot slower, more gentle form than psychedelics. Psychedelics is like, for your tech focused founders, psychedelics like plugging into a super high speed internet connection, whereas meditation is like a 300 baud modem. It'll still be very effective for you. And I meditate again almost every day, so I really enjoy meditating. It's very important for me for that communion, regular communion. But if you feel the calling, like go out there and read books like How to Change Your Mind, or watch the documentary that Michael Pollan came out with. It's on Netflix, of that name. Go get studied on it. And then if you decide to do it, just be really, really careful, because it really is very powerful.
Beautiful. Brett, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but I know we're coming to time.
You too.
The book is Love Conquers Fear, loveconquersfear.org. You can find a link to it in the show notes wherever you're listening to this podcast. Brett, where's the best place for people to connect with you personally online?
For social media, for the time that I spend on social media, 90% of it is on LinkedIn. I know for some people they look at that as boring, but it's the good type of boring. I'm not into the algorithmic enragement type of stuff. Agreed. So I post a lot on LinkedIn. I really keep up with the latest AI trends. I have a newsletter on there called the Superfecta Signal. In the book, I define the superfecta as the combination of AI, quantum computing, robotics, and brain-computer interfaces. They're all exponentially accelerating. So I put that out weekly because it's the news I wanted to read, and I, have people read along with me. It's all the positive news that's buried by the algorithms. But you could connect with me on there, or just loveconquersfear.org. We have a newsletter and mailing list on there as well.
Great. Brett, you've had an extraordinary career and just so much success, and you could literally do anything you wanted. But I just want to say thank you for dedicating yourself and putting your energy into a loving message. It seems strange to call that a brave act, but I think it is, so I just want to say I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I'll tell you, this is the most meaningful work I've done in my life. And you'll understand why when you get to chapter 13 in the book on the inner journey. So, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing in this lifetime. And I have a deep love for all of humanity. And I really think that we will create heaven on earth. It's up to us. We can choose that. Don't give up on us. Don't be like one of those people where 2028 comes around and you read the bumper sticker, which says giant meteor for 2028. Let's just end it already. Like, there's so much beauty constantly surrounding you if you just choose to open your eyes and look at it. And there's so much to come as we make it and manifest that beautiful age that has been prophesied for so long.
Well said. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Founders, you know better than anyone. The game changed overnight. Every industry runs on AI now. Medicine, law, finance, design, all of it. And while you're busy building the future, there's a whole generation of students about to enter the workforce who have no idea how to compete in it. AInativestudent.com fixes that. It's one-on-one AI coaching built specifically for high school and college students, personalized to their goals, their career path, their actual life. Your kid isn't learning to code, they're learning how to be fluent in the operating system of modern work. And colleges and employers, they're already noticing. Head to AInativestudent.com. It takes a couple minutes to apply for your student and lock in the 30-day money-back guarantee. The window to get ahead is right now. AInativestudent.com, and definitely have them sign up for the AI chat. It's the fastest growing for students in the world. Every week I sit down and ask myself one question. What do founders actually need to know about AI right now? Not the think pieces or the stuff that sounds impressive, the real useful put it to work today stuff. Then I write it up, send it to you in your inbox free. That newsletter is called AI for Founders, and I built it because I was tired of wading through hit pieces and people that are afraid of the future. Each issue, I break down the tools worth your time, the strategies that are working, and the ways you can use AI to grow your company without burning out or getting left behind. Thousands of founders read it every week, and I'd love for you to be one of them. Subscribe for free at aiforfounders.co. 3 seconds to sign up, and I promise it's worth it. If Instagram changed their algorithm tomorrow, how many of your followers on Instagram could you actually reach? Now ask yourself, how many people are on your email list? The gap right there is the gap between a personal brand you're borrowing and one that you actually own. The best founders in the world, the ones getting the deals, the stages, and the inbound, they have newsletters. They show up in inboxes every week. They build real relationships at scale. Inbox Alchemy makes that happen for you. They write your weekly founder newsletter, build you a stunning newsletter website, and grow your list to 25,000 engaged subscribers in 6 months. All managed end-to-end, so it's generating pipeline while you focus on building your company. Algorithms are someone else's decision. Your email list is yours forever. Head to inboxalchemy.co and start building the audience no one can take away from you. What if you had a partnership manager working for your podcast full-time, reaching out to brands, securing deals, handling all the back and forth while you just focused on making great content? That's Casey. Casey is the AI partnership agent from Howdy who actually goes out and gets your sponsors. Casey reaches out to brands on your behalf, works the conversation, and lands the partnership. You make the show, Casey makes the money. And look, Casey doesn't sleep, she doesn't lose track of follow-ups, and she never gets discouraged by a non-reply. Casey's out there right now working for podcasters who figured this out before you did. The only question is whether your show has a Casey yet. So go meet Casey at gethowdy.com. That's GETHOWDI.com. Takes a couple of minutes to get started, and Casey gets to work immediately. That's gethowdy.com.